Ahead of his visit to the White House, Ukrainian President Zelensky spoke at the National Defense University and Congress, making his pitch for more aid to Ukraine. The Biden administration has continued to place pressure on Congress to get more aid passed. Well, joining me now to break it all down is the president of the Counterpoint Institute for Policy, Research and Education and author of her new book, Last Warning to the West, Hungary's Triumph Over Communism and the Woke Agenda, Dr. Shea Bradley Farrell. Dr. Shea, thank you so much for joining us. This issue regarding more funding has, over time, really become more of a partisan issue, with Republicans citing funding for our southern border as the main priority and focus. Zelensky coming here again to ask for another blank check is nothing new, and Republicans have stood strong for quite a while. But it appears that we are letting a foreign leader jump into our conversation about securing our own border. What does this tell you about the Biden administration's priorities?
Well, Monica, you hit the nail on the head. Zelensky keeps laying the burden and responsibility of this war on Americans. He's been publicly very open about that. Our own Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, actually said that Americans can expect to have our daughters and sons on the ground in Ukraine if we don't pass this aid package. I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of being held hostage to this situation because it is not in our national interest. But can I tell you what this is in a nutshell? We have no strategy here. When does the war end? I want that question answered. You know, this is the largest aid package that we have given since the end of World War II and the Marshall Plan. We don't have transparency or accountability, Monica. I don't think that Russia is going to stop. I spent time in Central Europe this year, probably 2 or 3 months total, and you get the real story about what's going on over there in some of their news. We're not getting the real story here.
Dr. Shea, to your point about Russia, the Kremlin held a meeting ahead of this visit saying that, it's watching President Biden and Zelensky very closely ahead of this meeting, saying that any more money would be considered a fiasco. What do you make of those comments from the Kremlin? Because we really haven't heard much from the Kremlin the previous times that Zelensky has come here to beg for more money. So what do you make of these latest comments from the Kremlin?
Well, I'm no fan of Putin's, but quite honestly, I think that they're correct. Like I said, we don't have a strategy. It is a fiasco. We don't have accountability. On the other side with the Ukrainians, I'm sure the Ukrainian people are lovely people, and actually there are many brave people standing for their country, but their government is corrupt.
Absolutely. And Dr. Shea, quickly before we go, you have a new book out, Last Warning to the West, Hungary's Triumph Over Communism and the Woke Agenda. Tell us a little bit about that, and where can people find it?
Well, Monica, I learned about the history of Hungary, and I went over there and did some interviews with senior officials, but also regular citizens. And one of the things I kept hearing them say is that the rhetoric coming out of the United States reminded them of their occupation during the Soviet era. That Hungary was occupied from 1946 to 1991. And Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary, he was one of the freedom fighters that pushed the Soviet Union out. And he says, we've already been through this progressivism. It was called communism. We lived under it already. The critical race theory. But more importantly to me, Monica, Americans need to understand that this may be our last warning. Reagan always said, we're never more than a generation away from losing our freedom. I paraphrase, but that's the point. And it's important to me that Americans understand that.
That's right. I'm sure you can draw some very alarming comparisons to those events compared to what we're seeing now. Dr. Shea Bradley Farrell, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a copy. Incredible insight, as always. President of the Counterpoint Institute for Policy, Research and Education and author of our new book, Last Warning to the West, Hungary's Triumph Over Communism and the Woke Agenda. Thank you so much for joining us here on One America News.
Thanks so much, Monica.